February 20th, 9:23 a.m. Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. Well, I never expected this. Who'd have thought we'd be back here again so soon? We are on a study tour of Great Britain, with the intention of learning the country's legal practices. In order to research the latest court procedures here, we need as much court experience as possible. Well, yeah, I suppose that's true, but for the person in the dock, it may well be his or her one and only time in court, and it could be life-changing. In which case, treating it as research may seem a little crass. Oh, when you put it like that, you're quite right. Alright, let me guess. Good morning! There we go. Ah, Mr. Natsume, good morning. Oh dear, are you alright? Your eyes are terribly bloodshot. The early bird catches the worm, as they say here in Britain. Yeah, I've heard that expression. But I really don't want to catch a worm. So I tried desperately not to wake up early! But I was so worried I couldn't catch a wink. And now I'm absolutely exhausted as a result. Do all literary people think something's literary? There we go. Let me try that again. Do all literary people take things so literally? Whatever. Thank you for putting your faith in us today, Mr. Natsume. I did? Oh, yes, I did. I wish I had 9 lives! My whole future hangs in the balance. I'm too terrified to tremble! Really? Because I can feel tremors in the floor. I can't do this! I can't take it! Although, welcome student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. Yes? I caught a glimpse of the public gallery as I walked by the courtroom. It looked like the opening night of the opera. There were so many people. I had no idea my case was such a notorious affair here in London. Oh, neither did I. Do you know why that might be, Mr. Sato? I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo, but I have no idea. So that all-knowing look on your face is just coincidence then, is it? Don't hide the truth from me! It's because of the Reaper, isn't it? Lord Van Zeeks? Is that right, Mr. Sato? I purchased as many different newspapers as I could find this morning, and yes, Lord Van Zeeks is on the front page of every one. I knew it. Sometime after the prosecutor was dubbed the Reaper of the Bailey, he stopped appearing in court, it seems. It has been several years now, in fact, until the day before yesterday. Yeah, Inspector Gregson told us something similar, didn't he? The trial 2 days ago marked Lord Van Zeek's return to the courtroom after a very long hiatus. The trial of Magnus McGilded. What a harrowing experience that was. I believe that appearance made even greater waves here in the capital than today's. But we wouldn't have realized, of course, having only just arrived in the country. Why is the Reaper back in the Bailey so soon, for it appears to be a mundane murder? That is the question the papers are asking, and they all are speculating various answers. Mundane? Mundane? It's the most significant saga of the century to some of us. Oh dear, I meant no offense, Mr. Natsume, but that is how the papers are describing it. Well, lest we also forget the fact that it could spark an international incident. Obviously, the reappearance of this infamous prosecutor has got people's attention. But there's another blatant similarity with the trial of 2 days ago. Yes, I agree. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. It's you. Me? Well, I suppose that's true, but with that logic, I'd say that Susato is also a common element. Both times it is you who stands against this legendary prosecutor. It can only mean that you're friends with Reaper. Please, I don't rub shoulders with Deathbringers. I'm afraid that there's really only one other explanation. It can only be another example, Mr. Naruhodo, of your uncommon bad luck. Thanks for that. Oh, this is just my luck. Why must I be represented by a man with such frail fortune? By the least lucky lawyer alive! Well, let's not forget that it was you, Mr. Natsume, who asked me to represent you. Yeah, it's true that I'm just a student, new to London, with little in the way of experience or skills, or luck. But I promise you this. I will fight your corner until the bitter end, and I will believe in you, Mr. Natsume. Oh, benevolent locum student, Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. You're not alone here with us, Mr. Natsume. Whatever happens, we will always be on your side. Oh, benevolent non-locum assistant Miss Mekatoba Esquires. I'm in your debt forever! I shall never forget this great... Mr. Natsume, cancel your defense. A court session is about to begin. Kindly make your way into the courtroom at once. At once. Alright then, Mr. Natsume, it's time. Let's go. Yes! This is it. My second appearance in a British courtroom. And my second trial against the Reaper. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Because this time, I won't let my faith waver. I will believe in my client to the last. Just like you believed in me. I believe I can do this now. I believe I'm ready for this fight. I believe. Alright then. Well, I believe the trial is about to begin. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared, my lord. The defense is ready, my lord. The Japanese are a truly fascinating breed. Sorry, what? Lord Strongheart has told me all about you. That you are a student who arrived in London but 2 days ago. A mere amateur. Do you have a point? Being a compatriot, you feel compelled to try to help the accused, I suppose. Typical Japanese arrogance. Forgive me, but I do not believe arrogance is an appropriate description. Susato-san. After all, at our previous encounter, the defendant was found to be innocent. Very true, and the most fascinating if dark trial it was too. The tragic conclusion came later, of course. Here's to the acquitted and his unfortunate violent end. But thank you, counsels. I see both sides are in fine fettle. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are you ready to carry out your duties here in court as impartial members of the public? Wait a minute.
You never know when you might be down on your luck, but I believe in fair play for everyone.
Well, I must warn you, I'm rather more ruthless than I appear.
Oh well, not me. What you see is what you get. I'm a peace-loving fella. I'm afraid to say, I think it's quite possible that mustache foreigner did the deed.
Come on, what are you waiting for? No doubt you did it anyway.
Eh? Sorry, didn't quite catch that.
Very well, let us proceed. Your opening statement, if you please, Lord Van Zieks. Very recently, Great Britain signed an alliance with the rising power in the Far East. The accused in his doctor days, a student from that same land, a certain Mr. Suseki Natsume. And while our country has extended its foreign students the warmest of welcomes, regrettably the kindness has not been returned. In fact, these students accused of a most sinister act. Of plunging a knife to the back of an innocent woman who's doing nothing but walking down the street.
A knife crime? I tell you from bitter experience, those are the worst. Bloody oath they are. Just look at that sallow complexion and short stature. He's one of those dreadful Japanese.
Come on, let's get this over with. With me now, everyone. 1, 2, 3.
Hey, sorry, didn't quite catch that.
Pray forgive the discourtesy of smashing my hollow chalice here in this great chamber. Allow me to call the first witness to the stand. Very well. Bailiff, lead the inspector in, please.
The inspector?
Your name and occupation, please.
Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector, Scotland Yard.
Would you please summarize the events of the case for the court, Inspector?
A victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Olive Green.
I beg your pardon, Inspector. Thought to be?
Yeah, having been stabbed in the back by her attacker's knife, the victim fell unconscious. That was 3 days ago now, and she has been comatose ever since.
What?
So, they don't even know who she is for sure?
Comatose, I see. But her life is not in danger? Fortunately for the Eastern student, the charge will not be murder. Pray elaborate on the details, Inspector.
Sir, if I could ask everyone to look at this street map. As I mentioned, the incident took place 3 days ago, around 5 in the afternoon. It happened on a pavement running alongside Briar Road, a wide thoroughfare for all-strong vehicles. It had not long since stopped snowing as the victim, Miss Green, was walking down the street. Out of the blue, she was approached from behind by the accused and stabbed in the back. Luckily, the young lady's life was spared, and she's currently being treated in one of the city's hospitals. But being unconscious as she is, we've been unable to take a statement for her, of course. This is a case file with everything we know about the victim so far.
Thank you, Inspector. The court will accept the document as evidence, if you please.
found with a knife in her back and currently in hospital, yet to regain consciousness.
What of the weapon that was used?
So, I have that here. It was removed from a victim's back.
Ouch, that big thing is starting to make me scared to walk down the street now.
With a heavy blade like that, almost anybody would have been able to stab the poor woman.
Even the scragged-looking Sasaki-san, I suppose.
A common or garden jackknife, I would say. Rather nondescript. Thank you, Inspector. The court accepts this blade as evidence.
Huh.
Now then, what do we know of the motive? Money or valuables, I presume?
From what we can tell by looking at a woman's possessions, it seems like she's a poor student herself. Hard to imagine she would have had anything much worth pinching, my lord.
I see. Well, in that case, are we looking at some deep-seated resentment toward the victim?
I'm afraid I couldn't say. Apart from visiting second-hand bookshops, a defendant, Mr. Natsume, doesn't appear to get out much. At this moment in time, we haven't been able to establish any sort of connection between him and the victim.
Yes!
Well, there you go. If theft and grievance had been ruled out as a motive, what reason could Mr. Natsume possibly have had for stabbing the young woman? Yet you arrested the man in spite of that, in a totally unjustified and heavy-handed way.
Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging a freshly uncorked bottle in the public gallery. But your words have soured its hallowed bouquet. For it is you, my learned friend, who's being heavy-handed here.
What?
Scotland Yard does not arrest people without good cause. That should be beyond question. Inspector Gregson, the prosecution calls for your formal testimony. Explain to the court precisely why the constabulary came to arrest the Nipponese student.
Yes, sir. Okay. Looking forward to hearing this. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, and there was an unusually light fog. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else about but the victim and the accused. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Those being a number of old books he just bought. He was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. It was just a matter of working out who the books belonged to, and we found a bloke to arrest him.
Old books, you say?
Yeah, my lord. I have a photograph here of the scene of the crime, taken immediately after the incident.
Ah yes, I can clearly see the books to which you are referring. I will take that photographic print as evidence, please, Inspector. You Nipponese are a spineless breed, too cowardly to admit defeat, denying everything despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary.
Well,
Forgive me, Lord Van Zeeks, but the defendant is not denying everything, as you put it. What are you doing, Mr. Sada? Do go on. Mr. Natsume has admitted to playing some part in the incident. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo?
Well, now you mention it. When we visited him in the prison yesterday, he did tell us what had all happened.
as I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman wearing a green overcoat she was, just as I went to overtake her. She suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the cold, hard slabs of stone at my feet. I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran as fast as my legs would carry me back to my accursed lodgings.
A green overcoat?
Well, that's exactly what the woman in that print is wearing.
Oh my, a photographic print in full colour? What will the world come up with next?
The defendant has done nothing more than admit he fled the scene of a terrifying incident. That does not mean he is guilty of the heinous crime of stabbing the woman in the back. There was nobody else there at the time. Just the two of them, the victim and the accused. In other words, there's nobody else who could possibly have stabbed the woman. A fact that the accused concedes.
It seems that this cross-examination could prove to be pivotal, counsel. Proceed, please.
Yes, my lord. Nothing for it. I have to use this cross-examination to turn the tables here. It's our only chance. Alright. Before we start, let's see some of the new things here. Female, stout build, early 20s. Pavement of Briar Road. Rolly beat. Okay. Remains unconscious. Her name was gleaned from her personal effects. Apart from a single stab wound from a large knife, no other signs of injury were observed. Assailant was seen running away by the reporting officer, was successfully arrested the following day. Huh. Alright. Anything special about this blade? Let's examine it. Oh, it's been chipped off. What the hell?
Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo. Just at the tip. A small piece of the blade appears to be missing.
You're right. Well spotted, Mr. Sato.
I wonder what could have happened to it.
Yeah, you don't think it could still be lodged in the victim, do you?
Oh dear, I do hope not. That sounds terribly painful.
Maybe the knife is made of a special metal that if it stays inside the body it keeps it paralyzed or comatose. Like, I don't know, lead or something? I don't know. Whatever, okay. And we have a photograph. Okay. Let's keep going.
As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, and there was an unusually light fog.
A light fog, you say?
Well, light for London. You can see the opposite side of the street for once. Not much farther, though.
That's light, is it?
Around these parts, yeah. Not something I expect a Japanese fella like yourself to know, of course.
I've read that London is famous for its fog. But in my country, people usually imagine that gives the city a rather beautiful appearance. How quaint.
Yeah, well, it's not something us Londoners tend to romanticize, as I expect you can appreciate.
I see.
This time of year, the fog causes a large number of accidents, especially when it's heavy. Sometimes you can't even see your own hand at the end of your arm.
Indeed, the other day I was very nearly trampled by horses before I could see the carriage they were pulling.
Ooh, so that is something I should definitely remember to stop, look, and listen. However, on the day that concerns us, the fog was somewhat lighter than usual. A fact no doubt lamented by the accused.
Visibility was reasonably good, and there is no one else about but the victim and the accused.
How are you able to state that with any certainty? Quite simply, my learned friend.
Because that is what the witnesses to this crime have told us.
Ah, yeah. Inspector Gregson mentioned the witnesses yesterday, didn't he?
That is right. One of them is a policeman, I believe, from Scotland Yard.
That's correct, ma'am. That's correct, ma'am. Then we must hear their testimony.
The prosecution will, of course, cause him to the stand, should it be necessary.
But, wait a minute. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of winter, it would have been dark already. No matter how light the fog might have been, no one could have seen...
I am unaware of the situation on your tiny island in the east. But here in the capital city of Great Britain, all main roads are illuminated in the night by gas streetlights.
Ah.
The prosecution believes there would have been ample light by which to witness the crime. Quite. Here in London, for the first time in history, mankind has completely conquered the darkness.
Which means we really need to hear those witness statements.
If I could just get through the fog of this cross-examination, maybe we'll be able to.
It seems the counsel for the defense is taking stock. Continue with your testimony, Inspector.
Out of the blue, the victim was shot from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement.
Hold it!
From behind, you say? That's right, as you can see from his print.
Yes, quite so, Inspector. The handle of the weapon is clearly protruding from the victim's back. And you say this poor woman, Miss Green, remains in a critical condition? Comatose, no less?
I'm afraid so, my lord, yeah. She's been treated at Bart's. I was helpful that she come around before the trial started so I could take a statement, but it wasn't to be.
Yes, that is indeed a pity. It would have been most illuminating to hear the victim's own account of events. Luck is on your client's side, it seems.
On the contrary, my client has been exceedingly unlucky.
Your force of tone is seriously undermined by those disturbingly wide eyes, I'm afraid.
Oh.
The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor.
Hold it!
Mr. Natsume's belongings, I think you'll find it's all there in the photographic print of the crime scene.
Yes, the 3 books on the floor.
That's right, my lord. Second-hand books they are. Irreparably damaged after the falling in the snow, of course.
The accused could easily have carried all 3 books in one hand, which means his other hand would have been free to wield a knife, for example. He's very clever, isn't he?
What do you mean?
He's made it extremely hard for you to assert that Mr. Natsume had his hands full with books. He has managed to close the one avenue of escape we might have had before we even knew it was there. You mean to say that the defendant was holding his belongings as he thrust the knife into the woman's back?
That must be what happened, my lord, yeah. Those being a number of old books he just bought, he was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems.
Hold it!
The defendant apparently visits a second-hand bookshop on a daily basis. Yeah, so I understand. A shop full of old English literature.
I commend the accused on the lofty subject matter of his scholarly attention.
The bloke's room was stacked floor to ceiling with those musty old books. Can you tell us more about the bookshop in question, please, Inspector? Well, if I must, I'll have to ask you to look at a street map again, I'm afraid. A closest second-hand bookshop to the accuser's lodgings is this place here, Bourbon Books. A little place on the corner of Briar Road and Meerschaum Street. As it happens, the accused is currently living in lodgings on the other side of Briar Road at the opposite end, which means it doesn't take genius to work out the route he will take home. Something like this. Huh.
Yes, I concur with your conclusions, Inspector. The defendant would certainly have passed the scene of the crime on his way home from that particular shop. Mr. Naruhodo, I think that what the inspector just told us could turn out to be of vital importance.
Yeah, I agree. The most important point that the inspector just made being the bookshop's name. Because if we look at the receipt, the bookshop is called Your Books, not whatever he said. Inspector Gregson, may I ask you a favor? What? Would you kindly add the name of the bookshop to your formal testimony, please? I believe it may be of vital importance. Maybe? Oh, well, you know, I mean, yeah, it could be a very important clue.
Very well, not that I can see it being of any great significance, but please revise your testimony accordingly, Inspector.
Yes, sir, my lord. Whatever you say. Could the man be any more sardonic? He was on his way home from Bourbon Books, a second-hand bookshop he apparently patronizes. So the shop is called Bourbon Books, is it? Bourbon. That's right. That's the closest second-hand bookshop to the accuser's lodgings. And to get from there back to his room, he would have gone right past the very spot where the incident took place. If I could just confirm one point, can we be sure that the defendant really did visit Bourbon Books on the day in question? Well, we haven't actually confirmed it, no.
You haven't confirmed it? Why the devil not, Inspector?
Well, thing is, shopkeeper's gone on a trip, you see, like the morning after the incident, to collect more stock, I'm told. So we, haven't been able to ask the bloke if the accused visited his shop on the day in question or not.
Well, in that case, what did the defendant himself have to say about it? No recollection.
What?
According to the statement he made at this time, the accused has no recollection of where he'd been.
Of course he doesn't. A bloke clearly has his head in the clouds whenever he's walking back town. He claims he just wanders into whatever bookshop he happens to be passing, and rarely notices the name.
I should say the man ought to learn to look where he's going, at the very least.
So, it's just as I thought then.
Is something the matter?
Inspector, you may continue with your testimony. It was just a matter of working out who the books belonged to, and we found the bloke to arrest him. Hold it! You asked for the help of the famous detective Sherlock Holmes to locate the defendant, I believe. Stuff and nonsense. Sorry? That Jane office, that busybody, just comes and sticks his all in whether we asked him or not. But according to what I have here, Mr. Holmes was shown to the scene by Scotland Yard detectives. Well, it was nothing to do with me. I alleged that he must have done it without my permission. I tell him time and again, whenever something happens, send word to headquarters. Then follow your blooming instructions. I see. Yeah, if that murderer gets his hands on any details, we'll all be reading it in Rent's magazine next month. And you can bet your last farthing that I'll be in there too, stripped of all my oil and my cash. Yes, Mrs. Sholmes, now, Mrs. Sholmes, aren't you clever, Mrs. Sholmes? That's all the thanks I'll be getting.
Inspector, is the man proving detrimental to the yard's activities? Perhaps I should step in and deal with him?
Oh!
It appears Inspector Gregson is lost for words.
Yeah, the Reaper's words carry a lot of weight, obviously. I knew why a point is this. That loot Japanese blacks already admitted it. He's admitted that those books all over the pavement at the scene were the ones he bought that day.
What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? If you are unable to sway the jury during this cross-examination, I am afraid that Mr. Natsume's fate will be sealed.
Yeah, they're sure to find him guilty. So one way or another, I have to expose an undeniable inconsistency in the inspector's testimony. Well, easy. Easy, we already know the answer. I'm afraid you're very much mistaken. If I could just stop you there, Inspector Gregson. What is it, Sunshine? I'm a busy man, you know. This is a receipt that we found in Mr. Natsume's room. It was issued on the day of the incident, and details the purchase of 3 second-hand books. And you found that in the accused room, did ya? Yeah, but the point is not where the receipt was found, but the name of the shop printed on it.
Go on.
This receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books.
Your Books? Y-O-R-E, I presume?
Yeah, my lord. So Mr. Natsume did indeed purchase a number of books at a second-hand bookshop that day. However, the bookshop in question was not Bourbon Books.
Hey?
What?
Inspector, do you know of this other bookshop?
Yes, sir. Your Books is another second-hand bookshop not far from Bourbon Books. It's just that... well, it's just a small place, so I didn't think the accused would have known about it. But in fact, that is the bookshop which the defendant visited on the day in question. And this receipt proves it.
Objection!
Yes, for what difference it makes. Wherever the man purchased his musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis.
I disagree. I mean, after all,
I have the street map here, if that might be of help.
Oh, yes, thank you. Have a look at this, please. If the defendant had been returning from Bourbon Books, then yes, he would almost certainly have passed the place where Miss Green was attacked. However, if we take into account the fact that he was actually at another bookshop, Your Books, it may very well turn out that he wouldn't have passed that location at all. Could that be true?
My, it rather depends on where this other bookshop is, but I do declare it may be a possibility. Is that right, Mr. Lawyer, sir? What you just said?
Absolutely. It absolutely could be right.
Yeah.
Inspector Gregson, where is this Your Books establishment?
Well, obviously we're looking at, it turns out that Your Books is just here on the next corner of Mearsome Street, going east. Huh. That's not a good location. And there you have it. As you can clearly see now. Oh. Well, yeah, that's not much of a difference. He still could have taken that route.
My learned Nipponese friend is obviously in training To be a clown, the way he regales us with such witticisms. To your future career in the circus.
Grr, you put that glass down now, or I'll put it down for you.
I didn't think I need to spell it out, but here we go. If the accused was coming out from your books instead of bourbon books, there's no doubt he sure would have passed the place where a victim was stabbed.
Yes, thank you, Inspector.
Oh. Allow me to reiterate from my learned if somewhat slow Nipponese friend. Wherever the man purchases his musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis.
As I suspected, you can't fool me, and I don't suggest you try. What did I say, eh? What did I say, eh? What did I say, eh? I've had enough of this now. Beg your pardon. Terribly sorry, but would you mind repeating that?
Mr. Naruhodo, we must not give up.
What do you mean?
If the prosecution's assertions is correct, the members of the jury may very well decide that Mr. Natsume is guilty.
She's absolutely right.
We must consider the assertion just put forward by the prosecution very, very carefully. They claim Saseki-san must have passed the location of the incident on his way home from your books, but...
Sure, why not? The assertion just made by the prosecution is fundamentally flawed.
Explain yourself, Kanzu.
Yes, my lord. You can see what I mean on this map. When returning from your books to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume could have followed the route suggested by the prosecution. However, that isn't the only conceivable route to take between the two places. Yeah, sure, but how do we know that? If the defendant used these streets, look what happens. He arrives back at his lodgings without passing the location where the victim was attacked.
Objection!
Talking back to a clown is a fool's errand, of course. However, I feel compelled to point out that route is what is commonly referred to as the long way around.
Ah.
On a cold winter's night, why would any man choose to take a longer route home?
Well,
The answer is extremely simple. He wouldn't. In other words, the accused took the obvious route back to his lodgings, and the obvious perpetrator is the obvious perpetrator of this crime.
But, yes, I've got it. Obviously, we must ask the man himself. Ask Mr. Natsume which route he took home.
I've already informed the court of the accused's response to such questioning. He claims he has no recollection.
That's right. As I said, the bloke seems to spend his time outside, wandering aimlessly from A to B. There was no exception. He says he doesn't remember where he was or which route he took home.
I don't believe this. I thank you, my learned friend, and suggest that we do not waste any more of the court's time by wandering aimlessly around the subject. Pray, what say you, insightful jurors? But even if that is the case, the defense still...
I agree with Lord Van Zieks, wholeheartedly and in every way.
What? I don't believe it. Does this mean...
We members of the jury are completely convinced now.
Very well. In that case, I hereby call upon all members of the jury to present your findings to the court.
Guilty!
Guilty. 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 Hey, guilty.
Oh dear.
It would appear the jury's leaning is unanimous. To the insightful members of the jury, I applaud your brave resolve. You serve Queen and country admirably. Mr. Naruhodo.
No, not yet. This isn't over yet. I still have one last chance to sway the opinion of the jury. I have to tip the balance of those scales the other way. I have to turn this around. Somehow.
Those are the eyes of quarry, not yet willing to give up and die. So I presume you intend to wield your rights again in this trial? Rights of the defense written into antiquated British laws that should have been buried long ago.
Call it antiquated if you will, but it's the defense's prerogative to carry out a summation examination if it so chooses.
Very well, counsel. In accordance with the letter of the law, we shall proceed with the summation examination. Are the members of the jury ready, Mr. Foreman?
Of course we're ready. I'm all too familiar with that Nipponese whippersnapper and his uncouth refusal to throw in his alley. What?
Very well then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty.
Alright, let's hear it. For pity's sake, that little Nipponese oddity already admitted it himself, didn't he?
If he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why, it can only have been the victim. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter.
So a poor woman was attacked from beyond, was she? How dreadful!
I really don't care. Can't we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing.
Your books, yes. Nice shop, that. But Bourbon books, no, not worth a visit.
With only one minor exceptions, the reasons for finding the defendant guilty are all too clear. When the stabbing occurred, the only two people at the scene were the victim and the accused. And the accused himself has admitted to seeing the victim in her green overcoat sink to the ground before his eyes. Furthermore, we have heard from the inspector that the defendant then fled the scene. I must say, I would have ample grounds to convict this man already. Oh dear, even the judge appears convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt now.
Ooh, why did he have to run away like that? And how are we supposed to believe in some phantom attacker that nobody could see? This is impossible. How can I possibly make a case for the defense?
Mr. Naruhodo, this is no time for grumbling. If we want to force the trial to continue...
Yeah, I know. I have to turn the tide. I must make the jurors change their minds. Well, 4 of them at least.
Exactly. We have no choice but to forge forward. You have the floor, Council. Begin your summation examination.
Yes, my lord. I just need to keep this trial going somehow. Whatever it takes. Come on, Rinnosuke. You can do it.